Welcome back to another video. I was just about to react to a video. Man, I gotta watch what I react to, man. That stuff was hella copyrighted. Like from the top to the bottom. But this one right here, this seems made up. If anything, I can trim some stuff out.
In the world of professional wrestling, one of the hardest and most important things you could do is keep your character or your product as fresh as possible. Every wrestler has the potential to explode and become wildly popular, but every gimmick has a shelf life. As over as you are in that moment, it's near impossible to maintain for a long period of time, and the crowd will eventually turn. There are certainly exceptions to this rule where wrestlers will remain universally over no matter what period of the career they're in, and they won't have to change a thing, but they do to maintain interest in their characters. Some examples of this practice include Stone Cold Steve Austin turning heel in 2001 despite being the most over babyface, CM Punk turning heel in 2012 despite again being the most over babyface in the company, and Jeff Hardy, one of the most popular wrestlers of all time, turning heel in 2010 and becoming a version of himself that we had never seen before and haven't seen since. A character with so much promise and so much potential that we never got to see its conclusion due to reasons completely unrelated with the product or character itself, and that is what we will be discussing in today's video. This video is a result of a poll that I ran on my community tab, and it gained almost 40% of the nearly 600 votes casted. If you would like to decide in the next video, keep an eye out for whenever I put these polls out. If you do enjoy this video and you want to see more videos about all the random and cool stuff that comes from pro wrestling, be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. With that being said, let's get right into it.
I'm a huge fan of plants, artificial plants.
Meet Jeff Hardy. This isn't the first I've talked about Jeff Hardy, as I touched on his career briefly in a video a couple months back, but I did not go that deep into it. Hardy is one of the most universally acclaimed wrestlers of all time and possibly the most popular of the 21st century. A 6-time world champion, 13 times he has been a tag champion with his brother Matt, a plethora of other titles and accolades in between, alongside a deep catalog of classic matches in North America as both a singles and tag wrestler. Hardy's popularity really skyrocketed over the years and won over crowds all over the world due to his willingness to attempt very dangerous stunts within his matches. He is credited as an innovator and has this overall unique charisma about him that has resonated with millions upon millions of people. When describing Jeff, you might have heard the expression, Jeff Hardy is bigger than 2008 Barack Obama once or twice. That's how massive of a star he was and is. So you would never think a guy like him would ever turn heel, right? He simply didn't need to. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, we're going to try and break down the next 7 years as quickly as possible. Jeff was released from WWE in April of 2003 with the company citing drug use, erratic behavior, and no-showing events as their reasoning. Jeff made appearances for Ring of Honor in 2003, got over horribly with the ROH crowd, who would shower Jeff with such chants as "We want Matt" and "You got fired." He made his debut for TNA Wrestling in June of 2004, was a consistent draw and contender for both the NWA World Heavyweight and the X Division Championships, and eventually would be suspended multiple times for no-showing events. He would ultimately be released from TNA in June of 2006. Jeff made his return to WWE in August of 2006, a little over 2 months since his release from TNA.
Did you die like 3 years ago?
Following his return, he won the Intercontinental title a couple of times, won the tag titles yet again after reuniting the Hardy Boys with Matt, and was even pegged to win Money in the Bank in 2008 before he was suspended for 60 days for violating WWE's wellness policy. Side note, CM Punk ended up winning the contract, cashing in on Edge, and winning his first world title. Anyways, he returned, went to SmackDown, won his first world title, lost it after his brother Matt betrayed him, entered a crazy feud with him. He'd win the World Heavyweight Championship and lose it to CM Punk, who cashed in Money in the Bank for the second time. Feuded with Punk throughout the summer, where they trade the title back and forth, before eventually losing a loser leaves WWE match to Punk on an episode of SmackDown in August of 2009. This wasn't kayfabe either. Jeff legitimately left WWE in 2009 with 2 herniated discs in his lower back, as well as suffering from restless leg syndrome. Following this, Jeff took a sabbatical from wrestling to get his body right, and he wouldn't appear anywhere else during the remainder of 2009. January 4th, 2010 was a big day in the world of professional wrestling. New Japan held their annual Wrestle Kingdom event, Bret Hart returned to WWE television for the first time since 1997, and TNA Wrestling moved their weekly show Impact from their usual Thursday time slot to Monday in an effort to compete with WWE in the ratings, something a company hasn't done since WCW in the 90s. For TNA to do something this bold, they surely had an ace up their sleeve for this monumental occasion, right? In late 2009, TNA brought in Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan to oversee creative creative. Hogan, one of the biggest names in the history of professional wrestling, being associated with your brand before all the racist shit was quite the get for TNA in terms of name value. Same goes for Eric Bischoff, who was seen as a major factor in gaining the edge over Vince McMahon in the ratings war between Raw and Nitro. This was huge for TNA, but it wasn't the only new arrivals the company would see in the coming months. TNA used to have these steel asylum matches. It's essentially a cage match, but there's a dome over the cage that you have to climb out the top of to win. It was primarily used in the X Division. It was used on the January 4th edition of Impact, and during the match, Homicide pulled out a police baton and started beating the shit out of everyone. And then in a no contest for whatever reason, Homicide got out somehow, and you hear some random music playing out of nowhere. It turned out that the music belonged to one Jeffrey Nero Hardy. He made the song himself, it's called Modest, who made his way through the fans of the Impact Zone in Orlando, whacked the fuck out of Homicide with a steel chair, delivered a twist of fate, climbed up the asylum, and just stared out at his new surroundings. Jeff spent the first few months getting acclimated to TNA as more stars like Ken Anderson, formerly known as Mr. Kennedy in WWE, and Rob Van Dam would make their way to TNA in the months following. His first pay-per-view match took place at Lockdown in April, being a part of the Lethal Lockdown match, which was more or less their version of War Games. That Thursday, he faced and lost to RVD in a number one contenders match for the world title, then held by AJ Styles. RVD beat Styles that same night to end his then record 211-day reign as TNA World Heavyweight Champion and began a reign of his own. At Victory Road in July of that year, Hardy would lose a shot at the world title in a match against Van Dam in a four-way involving Anderson and Abyss. Speaking of Abyss, he began sort of a mentorship storyline with Hulk Hogan during this time, which ultimately led to Abyss receiving Hogan's WWE Hall of Fame ring, and he would even win Ric Flair's Hall of Fame ring. Eventually, Abyss turned back into a heel. After this, Abyss became more secluded, created a 2x4 with nails hanging out of it, which went by Janice, utilized his sit-out torture rack breaker more often as a finisher, more known as the shock treatment, and rambled on about how he was controlled by an entity and that they were on their way. Abyss continued his pursuit of the world title and faced RVD in a Stairway to Janice match on a special episode of Impact titled The Whole Effin' Show. RVD retained, a brawl ensued. It eventually led to the fight being continued to the backstage area for RVD and Abyss hit RVD with Janice, taking him out of action and involuntarily relinquishing the world title in the process. TNA made an 8-man tournament using the top 8 ranked wrestlers in the company. The goal was to complete the semifinals at No Surrender in September, with the winners of each matchup facing each other in the finals at Bound for Glory for the vacant world title. At No Surrender, Mr. Anderson beat the Pope to advance, and the other match was Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle. The match went a staggering 30 minutes and ended in a time limit draw. Due to this, both Hardy and Angle were added to the match with Anderson at Bound for Glory to crown a new world champion. At the event on 10/10/10, October 10th, 2010, they had a great match before a ref bump took place. Anderson hits a mic check finish on Angle. All men are down, and this is when that damn Eric Bischoff makes his way to the ring with a chair in hand. Hogan, coming out in crutches, slowly makes his way to the ring to seemingly confront Bischoff. Bischoff throws a chair out of the ring. Hogan gives Bischoff a talking to, incidentally gives a crutch to Bischoff, and the two T's swinging them at one another. Jeff rolls back into the ring. Hogan gives him a crutch, and it seems like he's gonna go after Bischoff until he turns around and hits Angle in the back as hard as he could with that crutch. He hits Anderson with that other crutch, hits a twist of fate. Bischoff drags Brian Hebner to make the count while he kicks him in the midsection, and the match is over. Jeff Hardy is your new world champion, but at what cost? Well, remember when I was talking about how Abyss was mentioning that they were coming? Well, this is they, now known as Immortal. Everything had gone according to their plan from the get-go. In my opinion, it was honestly a great reveal and a great closing segment to their biggest show of the year in hindsight. At the time, people don't really see it the same way that I do. So, would TNA be able to capitalize and justify such a decision? After all, it takes a lot of balls to turn one of your biggest baby faces, one of your biggest draws, into a heel. Well, they did do something that was honestly unnecessary, but something so unique that Jeff Hardy had never done before that it just might work.
As I look down at the world from 25,000 feet above, it becomes more and more apparent to me that I was always in control of my own destiny. I was always above it all. I was always better than everybody else. And as I catered, looking for acceptance, Eric and Hulk made it clear to me that your acceptance was meaningless. It didn't bring me fame. Most importantly, it didn't bring me money. I am the here, I am the now. I am the Antichrist of professional wrestling.
October 14th, 2010, the day the Antichrist of Professional Wrestling is born. As expected with such a heel turn, they completely reinvented Jeff Hardy and transformed him into something unlike anything we've ever seen in TNA before. Everything, from his attire, to his entrances, to his promos, it was something completely different from anything else in pro wrestling at this point, during a period where it felt like they were desperately trying to become WWE. Outside of Asushi Onita and R-Truth at one time on Raw, I've hardly seen a wrestler smoke a cigarette on air and pull it off. Add Jeff to that list. During this time, Jeff designed his own version of the world title, and it was used by him during this reign. Not really my cup of tea, but it's still sick that he got to use it. As far as Jeff's reign goes, it was certainly one that had happened. He began a feud with Matt Morgan, who was kicked out of the Fortune stable shortly after they had merged with Immortal. This feud resulted in 2 matches between them for the world title at the Turning Point and Final Resolution pay-per-views to close out 2010. The Turning Point match ended mostly clean, with Jeff working on Morgan's leg throughout the match and winning with what was now known as a Twist of Hate. The Final Resolution match, this time a no DQ match with Mr. Anderson as the special guest ref, until he got taken out inadvertently. Morgan hits a carbon footprint, covers Jeff for a solid 40 seconds. Hardy hits a low blow and a Twist of Hate to Morgan onto the steel chair to retain once again. Hardy's next defense was in the Tokyo Dome against a young Tetsuya Naito on January 4th, 2011 at Wrestle Kingdom 5. During the match, Jeff was notably intoxicated and is one of the main reasons as to why New Japan ended their working relationship with TNA. Many cite how TNA treated talents like Okada or Naito as the main reason, but I would argue that TNA sending their world champion to them in the condition that he was in as being more disrespectful. Unfortunately, this wasn't the first time that Hardy had wrestled inebriated, and it sure as shit was not the last. More on that later. We moved to Genesis on January 9th, 2011. Mr. Anderson had just defeated Matt Morgan to become the #1 contender for Jeff's world title. Eric Bischoff comes out and reveals that Anderson's opportunity for the title is taking place right here and right now. The match takes place, there's a lot of nonsense that happens here. There were a bunch of run-ins involving RVD and Matt Hardy, who had just debuted for TNA early in the night. Hardy goes for a Twist of Hate, Anderson counters into another mic check, goes for the pin, gets the 3 count, and ends Hardy's 91-day reign as world champion. As a Ken Anderson fan, it was cool to finally see him win something, but you can't help but feel that this reign for Jeff ended abruptly. You want to know what else ended abruptly? Anderson's own reign as world champion, as he lost the title back to Hardy 35 days later at the Against All Odds pay-per-view in a ladder match. On March 3rd, 2011, Hardy defended the world title against a mystery opponent, revealed to be Sting. Sting had been at TNA since October of 2010 and had been heavily rumored at this point to face The Undertaker at WrestleMania, but it did not come to be, and he made his return to TNA, where he beat Hardy and win his 3rd TNA world title in about 6 minutes. Throughout the week, a rematch for the world title was set between Sting and Hardy at the Victory Road event on Sunday, March 13th. And this is where the circus starts. Jeff makes his entrance, or at least attempts to make his entrance, as he's about a minute past his cue. He's stumbling around the impact zone while playing with his shirt and singing the words to his entrance theme. It does go hard, so I get it. He eventually gets to the ring. Sting now makes his way to the ring as the crowd bows and he raises the belt. In the background, you see referee Brian Hebner put up the dreaded X, and we now know that this isn't going to happen the way it was going to. Jeremy Borash makes the introductions before the bell rings. Eric Bischoff comes out and announces that it'll be a no DQ match to the live audience. He calls an audible off the mic and tells Sting to get Jeff in a Scorpion Death Drop to keep him down for the 3 to end this train wreck as soon as possible. The bell rings, and hell begins. For about 50 seconds, Jeff teases tossing his shirt into the crowd before just dropping it onto the apron. Sting hits some punches and a kick before getting Jeff into a Scorpion Death Drop, putting his entire weight onto his shoulders to secure the 3 and to end this. Jeff no-sells it and is very confused as the ref raises Sting's hand. The crowd chants bullshit for that bullshit ending. Sting famously responds with, "I agree," and the show ended. TNA apologized for this by giving everybody who purchased the pay-per-view 6 months free of their on-demand service. Admittedly, it's been a while since I've watched this match back, and I've never really felt any sort of way about it other than pity. This is the first time I've watched this back and felt genuine frustration, and while some of it is at Jeff for his irresponsible and damaging actions, it's more on TNA for even allowing this travesty to happen in the first place. According to Bischoff, Jeff had made an appearance for the 11 a.m. mandatory call time and was not seen again until right before the main event. Victory Road started at around 8 p.m. Eastern. The shows end up being around 2.5 to 3 hours. So let's say the main event started around 10:30. You didn't see the guy for over 11 fucking hours and you still put on the match? I want to clarify, Jeff is a grown-ass man and he deserved any repercussions that he would get as a result of this, but you don't see one half of your main event for 11 fucking hours. You definitely know about his habits at this point and you just decide to throw him out there to embarrass yourself? Whether Dixie Carter was in Gorilla or not, Eric Bischoff made an awful decision that has plagued the perception perception of TNA for years, even past his fucking tenure. Again, Jeff's a grown-ass man who should know better than to risk the safety of himself and his opponent by going out there drunk and high, but he did face Naito in a similar state a couple of months earlier after all, and look how well that ended up going for the company. I'm going to leave my grievances here because we have a little bit left to go, but never tell me that Eric Bischoff is a respected figure when it comes to talking about pro wrestling. He's a fucking joke. There is a light at the end of the tunnel though, so let's move on before I say even more. Jeff was suspended by TNA and completed a 120-day rehabilitation course. He was obviously removed from Immortal, and TNA redesigned the title. Jeff made his eventual return at the August 25th tapings in Huntsville, Alabama, 5 days after Matt had been released by TNA following a DUI. Jeff apologized to the fans and acknowledged that he had hit rock bottom. He asked for one more shot and that he would prove himself. Jeff had programs with Jeff Jarrett, Bobby Roode, and Kurt Angle following his return, and immediately showed how much more concise and competent of a performer he was than he was a year ago. He entered the Bound for Glory series, made it to No Surrender in the semis where he beat both Samoa Joe and Bully Ray in the same night to win the series, and faced world champion Austin Aries at the 2012 Bound for Glory event. At that event, 2 years after his first world title win, Hardy completed his redemption by defeating Aries and winning his third TNA world title. I can't explain it nearly as well in a brief paragraph. This is one of my favorite stories told in TNA, and a prime example as to how you can use a personal struggle to your benefit in wrestling. Jeff held the title until March of 2013 when he lost the title to Bully Ray, and this is where I believe you can pinpoint to where the beginning of the end for TNA was, but I digress. But yeah, that was Jeff Hardy, the Antichrist of professional wrestling. What did you think? Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought about this video, as I look for all feedback, positive or negative. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, so you do not miss out on any future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.
Thank you for watching.